The story begins with a man whose ideas have always challenged the boundaries of conventional science. Two names have repeatedly echoed in conversations about the future of energy and electric mobility: Maxwell Chikumbutso and Elon Musk. Maxwell, an inventor from Zimbabwe, has long been associated with extraordinary claims of technologies that seem to defy known physics. And Elon Musk, the visionary behind Tesla and SpaceX, has been the global face of practical electric innovation. The meeting of these two minds, if ever true, would represent a moment that could reshape the entire trajectory of clean energy technology. The story of an electric vehicle converted into a self-powered car is more than just an engineering tale. It's a challenge to everything we understand about power generation, sustainability, and the limits of human imagination. Maxwell Chikumbutso has been known for claiming to create a system that produces continuous energy without external input, what he describes as self-sustaining electromagnetic conversion. Years ago, he introduced a prototype car in Zimbabwe that he said could run indefinitely without charging or fuel. That claim was met with skepticism, criticism, and fascination all at once. Scientists demanded data, engineers wanted replication, and the world watched with disbelief. Yet, his small workshop continued to attract attention from journalists, researchers, and curious minds who wanted to see if the impossible could somehow be true. Fast forward to recent times, and whispers began circulating that Maxwell had received an unexpected invitation from one of the most advanced research facilities in the world, Elon Musk's private energy development lab in California. According to those whispers, the invitation was not an official Tesla announcement, but a quiet gesture of curiosity from within Musk's innovation circle. Some reports say that Musk's team, intrigued by Maxwell's claims, wanted to witness firsthand what his self-powered conversion technology could actually do. The idea was simple yet revolutionary: take an existing electric vehicle platform and integrate Maxwell's self-generating system to see if it could truly sustain itself without charging. In theory, this would mean creating the world's first infinite-range electric car, a machine that never needs to be plugged in. Such a technology, if proven, would render batteries, charging stations, and even fuel obsolete. Imagine a vehicle that powers itself endlessly through electromagnetic resonance or radio frequency energy recycling.
To most, it sounds like pure science fiction.
But then again, so did reusable rockets, before Musk made them land back on Earth. The experiment, according to alleged insiders, began with a standard Tesla Model S, stripped of its conventional battery charging setup and re-engineered to accommodate Maxwell's RF power conversion module. The module, as Maxwell described in earlier demonstrations, worked on principles of electromagnetic induction and radio frequency harvesting, capturing ambient energy and converting it into usable electrical power. The claim was that this system could maintain the car's power indefinitely without drawing from an external grid. Engineers in Musk's lab, known for their data-driven approach, reportedly treated the project not as an endorsement of free energy, but as a scientific test of a radical hypothesis. The first few weeks were focused on calibration, energy flow measurement, and system diagnostics. Maxwell, as accounts suggest, was deeply involved in every stage, guiding the team through the subtleties of his proprietary circuits and shielding techniques. The results of those early experiments remain shrouded in secrecy. No official documentation or confirmation was ever released by Tesla or Musk's team. However, fragments of insider accounts began to surface, engineers describing unusual energy feedback loops and unexpectedly stable voltage outputs during testing. These clues, while unverified, added fuel to an already burning conversation online. Could it be that Maxwell's controversial technology actually demonstrated measurable success inside Musk's lab? Some claimed that the test vehicle managed to maintain continuous motion for several days without any external charging. Others argued that it was simply a controlled simulation or an energy efficiency test, not proof of perpetual motion. The mystery only deepened when both Musk and Chikumbutso remained silent publicly about the matter. Neither confirmed nor denied that such an experiment ever took place. But absence of denial often breeds curiosity. And curiosity in the age of digital speculation becomes a storm of rumors, theories, and belief systems. What makes this narrative fascinating is not just the possibility of the technology, but the convergence of two radically different approaches to innovation. Elon Musk represents structured, data-validated, iterative engineering.
Maxwell
Chikumbutso represents intuition, faith in unseen principles, and boundary-defying invention. The collaboration, real or rumored, bridges the gap between rigorous science and visionary experimentation. Sources close to Maxwell claim that he had been working on refining his RF-based power loop since 2019, trying to stabilize frequency interference that limited earlier prototypes. His new design, according to those who saw it, used layered resonant coils shielded with mu metal, allowing greater energy retention and reduced signal loss. In his own words, the system was not perpetual motion, but a redefinition of how we view energy balance. If this interpretation holds even partial truth, it suggests a system that doesn't create energy from nothing, but rather captures and recycles ambient electromagnetic energy, a concept loosely linked to Nikola Tesla's old experiments. Still, mainstream science has long argued that such a system cannot deliver sustained power beyond what it absorbs. The second law of thermodynamics, energy cannot be created or destroyed, stands as a cornerstone of physics. But history reminds us that every revolutionary discovery once defied the laws known at its time. When the Wright brothers flew, experts said heavier-than-air flight was impossible. When Einstein introduced relativity, Newtonian mechanics was considered complete. So, could it be that Maxwell's idea simply points toward an undiscovered layer of energy behavior, one that we don't yet fully understand? The possibility, however remote, keeps scientists intrigued and skeptics watchful. Some believe the collaboration in Musk's lab was never about validating perpetual energy, but about exploring advanced wireless energy transfer and closed-loop efficiency improvements. A project like that would align perfectly with Tesla's interests in sustainable power and wireless technology. If Maxwell's approach managed to enhance the vehicle's range even by 10% without extra charging infrastructure, it would still be a monumental breakthrough. Within Musk's culture of innovation, even impossible ideas are worth testing, as long as they can be measured, challenged, and quantified. That philosophy might explain why this alleged collaboration could exist without public acknowledgement. Musk's ventures have always maintained layers of research beyond public visibility. Think of Neuralink's early secret tests, or SpaceX's classified defense payload experiments. The labs behind the curtain often hold projects that may never reach daylight until proven viable. Maxwell's presence in such a setting would make sense for an inventor operating outside conventional academic channels. It would offer him access to precision equipment, measurement tools, and engineering expertise to validate or refine his theories. And for Musk's team, it would be an opportunity to witness firsthand a system that many dismissed as pseudoscience, to separate fact from myth through direct observation. Whether that observation led to astonishment or quiet dismissal remains an open question. But in scientific progress, even failure teaches more than inaction. What's undeniable is that since the rumor emerged, discussions around self-powered electric vehicles have gained renewed intensity. Online forums, tech blogs, and research channels now debate whether electromagnetic resonance could indeed power vehicles indefinitely. Academics have re-examined fringe research papers on ambient energy harvesting. Independent engineers are conducting experiments inspired by Maxwell's earlier prototypes. The curiosity has expanded beyond belief into experimentation. And perhaps that is the greatest impact of this story, not the confirmation of a miracle machine, but the inspiration to ask questions once considered foolish. As the first part of this exploration closes, one thing becomes clear: the line between fiction and frontier is thinner than ever. Whether in Musk's lab or somewhere deep in Zimbabwe, the quest to unlock limitless clean energy continues to challenge both logic and faith. And as we move into the second half of this story, we enter the realm of uncertainty, where rumors, whispers, and possibilities collide. A space where we must ask not only what happened, but also what might have happened. The story does not end with the experiment. It begins again in the silence that followed. For months, neither Maxwell Chikumbutso nor Elon Musk issued a single public statement confirming what had actually taken place. That silence became the breeding ground for speculation. Some called it strategic secrecy, others called it proof that something extraordinary had occurred. Rumors began to surface that the car, once modified in Musk's lab, continued to run long after the testing period ended. The claim was that the vehicle was placed in a sealed testing bay, monitored remotely for weeks, and showed no measurable decline in energy output. No one outside that facility ever saw the data, but someone claimed to have heard it from someone who worked there. That's how most legends begin, with a whisper that refuses to fade. The rumor gained traction when a blurry image appeared online showing what looked like a Tesla Model S with unusual wiring around the hood and electromagnetic coils near the chassis. Supporters of Maxwell's work insisted this was the proof, the same prototype being tested in California. Skeptics immediately dismissed it as digital fabrication. Yet, the timing of that leak aligned curiously with Maxwell's brief disappearance from public view. For nearly 3 months, he made no social media posts, gave no interviews, and even his known associates declined to speak on his behalf. It was as if he had vanished into a quiet dimension of secrecy. Some said he had signed a non-disclosure agreement with Tesla. Others believed he was continuing the research under a joint venture cloaked in confidentiality. The more rational voices proposed that he was simply refining his system away from the spotlight to avoid criticism. But every silence, in the world of discovery, creates its own sound. Forums filled with theories, some rational, others fantastical. One group of engineers suggested that the so-called self-powered EV was not truly perpetual but used a form of ambient energy amplification, possibly through high-frequency resonance and atmospheric ion collection. According to that explanation, the car drew energy from surrounding electromagnetic fields, converting them into usable current through Maxwell's frequency converter. That concept, though extraordinary, does not technically violate physics, it merely stretches it to its very edge. If such a system were real, it would revolutionize how we perceive sustainable power. Imagine every EV becoming its own generator, never relying on grid charging. But then comes the other side, the side of scientific caution. Many experts in the field of thermodynamics have consistently argued that Maxwell's claims contradict the conservation of energy. They argue that ambient energy sources at Earth's surface are far too weak to sustain an entire vehicle at driving load. Even if radio frequencies or static fields were captured, their power density would be insufficient to propel a heavy car continuously. That's why established laboratories require independent peer review and replication before any extraordinary claim is accepted. To date, no verified paper or dataset from Maxwell's alleged collaboration with Musk has surfaced.
Nos patents 1 de Tesla S Research Division mention à self-powered énergie conversion system.
That absence of evidence fuels the rational conclusion. Maybe nothing miraculous happened at all. Maybe Maxwell visited the lab, demonstrated a device, and the engineers found it scientifically unconvincing. Maybe the project was politely shelved, buried under thousands of other experimental ideas that never reached production. That version sounds plausible. Yet, even that explanation doesn't fully erase the mystery. Because if it were truly unremarkable, why maintain total silence? Musk, known for public transparency and occasional mischief on social media, could easily have joked about the free energy guy. But he didn't. He said nothing. And sometimes, nothing says more than words ever could. A separate thread of rumors proposed that the experiment produced partial success, not perpetual motion, but an unprecedented efficiency gain. Perhaps the system improved the EV's range by 200 or 300% through regenerative resonance. Such a breakthrough, even if incomplete, would be worth guarding as proprietary research. In the corporate world, silence often equals development. Companies protect early-stage discoveries until patents and validation are complete. So maybe Musk's silence wasn't disbelief. Maybe it was strategic protection. Maybe both innovators decided to refine the technology quietly, away from headlines and skepticism. On the other hand, the skeptics maintain a simpler theory: there was no joint experiment at all. According to them, the story was amplified by online channels seeking virality. The lab collaboration might have begun as a misinterpreted email, a visit, or a speculative report. It spread through social media, mutated into a confirmed event, and eventually took on a life of its own. After all, people want to believe in breakthroughs that promise to free humanity from dependence on fuel and charging. The emotional appeal of a car that powers itself is irresistible. Hope, in many ways, travels faster than truth. Yet within that hope lies the seed of possibility. Because even if this exact story is exaggerated, it mirrors a very real trend in research: the pursuit of closed-loop energy systems. Across the globe, engineers are working on ambient power harvesting, wireless energy transfer, and zero-loss inductive charging. These are not fantasies, they are documented research fields. And in those labs, Maxwell's ideas, even if scientifically imperfect, still serve as inspiration. A rumor, in that sense, becomes more than gossip, it becomes fuel for curiosity. The notion that Musk's lab might have explored such radical technology sparks imaginations and encourages new investigations. Maybe that is the true significance of this story. But let's imagine for a moment that the rumor is entirely true. Suppose that within a guarded room in California, a Tesla prototype indeed ran without charging for weeks. Suppose that engineers verified a stable current flow generated purely through Maxwell's system. The implications would be profound. Energy economics would collapse overnight. Oil, gas, and even renewable infrastructure would become secondary to a self-contained vehicle that generates its own power. Entire industries would resist such a shift. Governments would scramble to regulate it. A discovery of that scale could easily justify extreme secrecy, hidden until global systems are ready to adapt. And that brings us to the darker layer of rumor, the one whispered in forums and encrypted groups. It claims that Maxwell's technology was quietly absorbed by private interests. Some believe he was offered a non-public deal, perhaps funding, perhaps silence. Others go further, suggesting that both men agreed to bury the concept until a controlled rollout could protect existing industries. There is, of course, no proof for any of this. But the very persistence of these theories shows how deeply this story has gripped people. Humanity has always feared and revered hidden power, from the myth of fire stolen from the gods to the secrets of atomic energy. When something challenges the known limits of science, people either call it a miracle or a threat. Maxwell Chikumbutso's legacy sits precisely in that space between disbelief and wonder. Whether his technology truly worked in Elon Musk's lab or not, it has already achieved something remarkable. It has made people think differently about what is possible. In the years since the alleged experiment, several independent researchers have tried replicating his concept using RF energy modules and resonant coils. Most reported limited success, small energy gains, but not perpetual operation. A few claimed surprising stability in closed-loop setups, hinting that the idea might not be entirely impossible. None, however, reached the scale of an operating vehicle. That continuing gap between concept and demonstration defines the fine line between belief and evidence. It also underscores why both may be and may not be must coexist in any discussion of innovation. Science advances not through certainty, but through curiosity. Each maybe becomes an experiment, and each failure becomes data. If Maxwell's concept truly failed, then it still taught engineers about the limits of resonance and energy retention. If it partially succeeded, then it quietly nudged humanity closer to discovering a cleaner way to power movement. And if, in the most extraordinary case, it fully worked, then history is waiting for the right moment to reveal it. Perhaps, one day, an official announcement will emerge. A press release, a patent, a demonstration, something that finally lifts the veil. Until then, the story lives in the intersection of fact and faith. A laboratory that may or may not have existed. A car that may or may not have powered itself. Two men, one grounded in engineering precision, the other guided by unconventional intuition. Their meeting, whether real or imagined, represents humanity's eternal struggle to transcend limitation. The rumor of Maxwell's self-powered EV in Musk's lab is, at its core, a mirror. It reflects our longing for independence from the systems that confine us. Our desire to believe that somewhere, someone has already solved the energy problem that binds our civilization. Maybe it happened. Maybe it didn't. But every time the story is told, new minds start questioning the boundaries of science. And that questioning, more than any confirmed fact, drives progress. For now, the laboratory doors remain closed. The test vehicle, if it existed, rests unseen. The equations lie hidden, the data unread, the truth unspoken. But ideas, once released into the collective mind, never disappear. They travel, evolve, and eventually find the hands ready to bring them to life. Whether Maxwell Chikumbutso truly converted an EV into a self-powered car in Elon Musk's lab or not, the spark of that possibility has already ignited something irreversible. It has challenged both believers and skeptics to look again at what defines energy itself. In that sense, the rumor is already reality, not as proof of technology, but as proof of imagination. The world may still be waiting for the day a car runs forever without fuel or charge. But perhaps, somewhere in a hidden laboratory, that day has already begun. And whether the story is true or not, one thing remains certain: innovation thrives in mystery. Because behind every unbelievable rumor lies a fragment of the future,